Good evening, Midwest Motorsports members and anybody else listening. This is the Cool Down Lap presented by Midwest Motorsports. I'm your host, Anthony Castor, driver of the 8 in the Cup Series, and I'm joined by James Johnson. Go ahead, James, introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you're having a good Monday evening. I'm James J. I do the Cup broadcast on Sunday nights, the Road Series on Tuesday nights, and the Midwest Motorsports Truck Series on Friday night.
Yep, and we have a little bit of stuff to get into throughout this podcast regarding series races, but as always, we're going to start out with the This Week in Motorsports and then move on to our guest segment because we do have a guest in today. So I'm going to start with This Week in Motorsports, and I'd like to start with the COTA race. The Xfinity Series put on one heck of a race over the weekend. It was down to the wire, a lot of bumping. I mean, it was good to see that the Xfinity race wasn't like a caution fest or a lot of wrecking. There was some wrecking, but it wasn't like one of the oval tracks where you get a bunch of wadding up. Kind of took me back to where the Xfinity Series was one of the better series to watch because of the tight racing and everything. Got to see Larson pull away a win out of that. Fast forward to the Cup Series. Looked like Willie B was kind of just going to run away with it for most of the day, aside from a couple Gibbs cars kind of coming up and getting on his rear bumper there, but he ran a good race. It looked like, again, no cautions. There was some spins here and there. With the track being as big as it is, they just didn't feel the need to throw the caution. So I get why they didn't do it. I mean, it's a huge track to run a caution lap there. I mean, I know you're running underneath the stages. It takes a while to get around, but I just feel like once they drop the green, the leaders would pull away. The middle of the pack would kind of fight here and there. And that was just the status quo for most of the race. So I got a question for you, James.
Hey, Ant, I'm listening.
So COTA, do you feel like COTA is something that has a place in NASCAR over the next handful of years, or do you think they're going to run another one or two times there and then call it quits?
Man, I'm not sure if that's a loaded question or what, because there's really no wrong answer. Some people love it, some people hate it. I think Coda is a world famous road course, and I think and NASCAR as is mostly American with their following, although they're trying to become more international. I think that's why they've gone to some of the more international tracks. But I think I love Coda. I think it is a track that provides a lot of good racing, no matter what series. So, you went over a lot of stuff there all at once. So I don't know how to react to just one or not, but I do want to answer your question seriously. With the truck race, we saw comers and goers, and I mean the pole sitter Connor Zilich uh, was, I don't know if it was his first truck start or um,
I believe that was his first truck start.
right. So and he's 17 or 18 years old. He won his class at the Daytona 24-hour race. He ran Sebring in a prototype, I think a P2, and got first in class. And then he ran the truck and put it on the pole. So he obviously knows those kinds of tracks and probably gives him an advantage. But for crying out loud, he's 17 years old, and the trucks are completely different from the prototype, which is completely different from a GT. So the kid's got some talent. He was able to show his skills on a track like that. Could he do the same thing if it was an oval? I don't think there's any way possible for that. Fast forward to but then he went off back to the trucks on Connor Zilich, turn one, lap one. Wheel hops trying to go deeper than everybody and ends up in the gravel, coming out last place. So then he worked his way back up to third within 15 laps, 20 laps, something crazy. So I think a track like that allows a driver like that to show off their skills. And so is that what NASCAR is about at the top three series? And it is the trucks. of NASCAR. Should NASCAR not go there? I would argue, but the top series, we could talk about the Xfinity and another later on in the segment if you'd like, because I thought that was the best race of the weekend.
I
But
agree.
the Cup race not having any cautions are going 100% natural, even though there were some spins. Now, I remember in one of our Midwest Motorsports Cup races on a road course at an international circuit, the leader spun going through lap traffic. And do you think they should have thrown the caution for that and bunched the field back up and gave them a chance to catch back up?
Well, I mean, we notoriously we don't throw cautions just because of the time it takes to pace around the track, which I mentioned. I get it. It takes a while to get around Coda, but
It
I
takes
don't
a
know.
long time to get around Watkins Glen too. So do you
Yeah.
think? And that's why I think the the road races on the Midwest Motorsports Series most of the time go green all the way unless the track's completely blocked. I have not seen a full course yellow on a road course in the Midwest Motorsports set yet. So I don't think they should throw a yellow for if somebody spins and they're rejoined unless the track's blocked. Dangerous or there's equipment on the track. So other than that, the other reason that I think NASCAR is having an issue this weekend, especially, is with the track limits fiasco.
Oh
I
man.
call it a fiasco because um, multiple people got dinged for track limits. And granted, they were out of track limits. The way they can measure it now, is by a fraction of an inch with the, electronic transponders on a certain section of the track. So um, it's black or white whether they did or not. Much like the pit crew stepping off was the eye in the sky that they call it now, where they can tell if the pit crew hit the ground before a car got in the box, and it's all electronic, and it can. Have you seen that, Ant? Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep. Yeah, I
Those
know what you're
systems?
talking about.
So I mean, it's crystal clear. There's no question about it that they weren't out of track limits. But when you're right on somebody's bumper and you're going through the S's, the first guy can see where the track and we're talking about the difference in where the rumple strips of the um the curb, because it's not really a curb, it's like a graded painted area. So it's
Mhm.
all painted the same color. You can, see, you can feel where it goes, but the leader can see it, but the guy that's on a bumper can't see it. So it's a fraction of an inch that they're talking about. And it's black and white. So NASCAR's put themselves in a box from having to call something if they did go avoid the track limits or not. What's the alternative to a track limit call though? When they again track limits when they only do there's 20 corners on the track and they call track limits at one place where they're going three wheels in the dirt, 15 other corners. So
Yep.
NASCAR's put themselves in this box where they're calling track limits only on one corner. I don't know. I don't know what to do about that, and I don't think you can blame that on the track. But NASCAR might say it's a function of the track. I don't know. I like it. I hope they keep it there. I'm a NASCAR fan. I want them to go where there's good racing. I want them to go where they can bring more fans, and I want to be able to talk about it the day after with everybody and be talking about good stuff and how exciting the racing was. And I think Austin Hill and Shane Van Kiesbergen were crazy. And here's another hot take. I think a Cup guy running the Xfinity series needs to be looked at too. We
Oh
can talk
yeah, no,
about
of
that
course.
later.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that later in the show. Go ahead and hit us with your this week in motorsports.
Well, a Red Bull did not win F1 this weekend. So that's like the first time in 30 something races, or I think, no, I don't, I think 30 is an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? It's over 13. So, did you watch any of the Formula One? Are you a Formula One fan?
I watch Formula One. Um, I don't invest as much time into it as NASCAR, but I did not watch the race. I know I can record it. I'm really weird about recording and rewatching races, but midnight start time for me was out of the question.
Oh yeah. Did you see that 15-minute highlight show or anything like that on ESPN? Anyway, I thought the racing was great. I'm glad that. I mean, it's unfortunate that the Red Bull did blow a tire or have a mechanical issue. I think it was a brake vent or a brake duct that blew on the fifth lap. So third lap, and he finally called it by the time lap 5. So it's unfortunate that it happened. That's the way the Red Bull went out. Um, but I am happy that the smooth operator ended up winning the race, and I'm glad that also that Ferrari's team orders. I was hoping Justin Taylor was going to join us tonight. We had the conversation earlier this year in the previous cool down lap episode about team orders, and I'm glad that Ferrari did not call a team order on um, Carlos Sainz and tell him to pull over for Leclerc. Leclerc would be the leader of the um, championship if he'd have won the race. So Ferrari has been known to call team orders, and I'm glad they didn't do it. Otherwise, Melbourne, Australia was incredible, and yeah, lots of good racing up and down. Unfortunately for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, all you Lewis Hamilton fans that were hoping he's going to do good, he's still in the weeds and going to drive a Ferrari next year. So we'll see about his team order situation, but it sounds like they're going to let him race. I loved
Yeah.
the race. It was unfortunate that Oscar Piastri, who was an Australian, also got a team order and was told to pull over, and he did to let Lando Norris get a podium when Oscar Piastri could have got a podium in Australia, and I think that's ridiculous, especially in the third race of the season.
Yeah, team orders, man. They really mess with the racing at times, and it's like, why? Why? I mean, I get it. I mean, if they did tell Leclerc or signs to let Leclerc by, I get it. I mean, championship, he's going to go into first. It'd probably be the first time somebody besides a Red Bull car has actually uh, led the championship in the last
Right.
2 seasons. But I'm glad that they didn't pull team orders and Signs got to show what he could do there.
Yeah, I think the difference between first and second in the Formula One championship is something crazy like $100 million. Not $100,000, $100 million. So, yeah, the team championship should be the priority, but yeah, we can talk about it all night if you want.
Well, again, we'll circle back around to some of these topics towards the end of the show here. I'd like to get into our guest segment tonight.
Yeah, let's do it.
Joining us tonight, we have a road series. I can't say newcomer. He's been here for a little bit. We have Taylor Montague, driver of the number 16, with us. Taylor, you there?
Sure am. How you guys doing this evening?
Hey, doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Just actually enjoying a little bit of warmer weather up here in Indiana.
Oh, you're out in Indiana. No kidding.
Yep. Born and raised here, and not been enjoying the frigid cold mornings that we've had here recently. But it's warming up. It'll get there.
Oh, tell me about it, man. I walked outside, I think this afternoon, and I was like, I'm taking the motorcycle out. It's a good day for it.
Yeah, it was a sweatshirt and windows down weather or in the morning, and then this evening it was windows down and t-shirt weather. So.
With our guest segment, really all we're aiming to do here is kind of shed some light on some of the drivers or members we've had here in the league. And what we'd like to do is just kind of get to know you and kind of introduce you to
Yeah.
the rest of the league and people who race with you that probably don't know anything about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've raced with you a little bit. I want to say back in the TCR, I know we raced together.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we raced any in the GT3 back when we started that on the roadside, but I know you've been here for a while. Do you
Yeah.
remember exactly when you joined?
I've joined way back in the TCR days and have been a pretty consistent racer ever since. I don't know if I joined right at the very beginning of TCR, but the first races that I did here with Midwest were definitely in the TCR class.
Yeah, that was a while ago, man. I remember.
Just a little bit.
So we have a veteran here with us tonight, James.
I'm learning. I don't even remember TCR league. You guys are showing your age now.
So some of the questions I like to ask Taylor, kind of easy ones here. Is there a certain car that you like to drive or prefer to drive on the iRacing service?
It a lot of times for me it just depends on kind of what I'm feeling. I mean, with the GT4, here in Midwest, I've run the Mercedes and really grown to enjoy that car. So if I get the opportunity to race it in an official, I'm gonna race it. I also do kind of lean towards the Merc GT3 as well. And then if I'm just kind of looking for something different, I'll switch over to the F3. Kind of got bit a few too many times by some of the prototypes, so I like to stick to I'll call them the quote unquote slower cars.
Yeah. So to go along with that, is there a certain track that you like to run more than any of the other ones?
I'm pretty partial to Laguna Seca, just because when I started, gaming many years ago, and my first racing game was GT2 back on the old PlayStation. I just absolutely fell in love with the Laguna Seca track, and anytime I see a series on it, I try and jump into at least one official during the week with it.
Yeah, that track can be a little treacherous if you
Yeah.
you don't know it.
It very much can be, but I look at it as a challenge to myself because constantly trying to get better. Seeing where I was back in the TCR days and where I'm at now with the GT4 class, just always trying to improve. And I just love trying to improve on that track specifically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a good technical track. Um, so I know you've been here for a while, and you've really been sticking it out with the league. I guess what keeps you coming back to it?
Honestly, the consistency. Every single race week, racing against pretty much the same guys, week in week out. I know how they're going to race. I don't have to worry about somebody just randomly taking me out in turn three, or worse, turn one at Monza. It's that consistency, and really, I just enjoy the racing. Everybody's extremely nice. We don't have the toxicity that you hear in some of the official race chats. So it's definitely a lot of that.
Yeah, for sure. That's the one nice thing I really enjoy about league racing as opposed to officials. You ain't got the
Mhm.
boneheads.
Right? Yeah, you don't have the armchair F1 managers who tell you every little thing that you've done wrong.
Yeah, of course. So is there anything, I guess, over the years of racing in the league, anything that you've seen change that you'd like to see kind of go back, or anything that I guess currently that's going on like in the league? Like, say if you were like I guess a league owner for a day, is there anything you'd want to change to kind of try and better the racing or better the roadside of Midwest Motorsports?
To be quite honest, I can't really think of a whole lot, especially from an F4 perspective, or F4, good lord, GT4 perspective. I remember back when we did try the GT3, GT4, multi-class racing. I would love to be able to see us do more of that, but I know it was difficult to keep a consistent grid with the multi-class. So, maybe have that as a little fun run during one of our off weeks. I'd love to see a little bit of that type of racing again.
Of course, man. Fun runs are always fun. I'm glad that they
Mhm,
started doing them again, and more people are participating. So it's good.
mhm.
Hey Taylor, I just wanted to say it's been a lot of fun watching you the last couple of seasons and calling you through the racing. See you changed your paints a couple of times, and that kind of threw me off.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I don't
Sorry
mind
about
at
that.
all. But no, it's good, man. Um, how did you get into sim racing to begin with, and how did you find iRacing? Did it start on a console, and at what point did you
Yeah.
make the leap to go all in and get the sim rig?
Yeah, so a lot of it was just kind of started out, console days, Gran Turismo 2, going up through the last one I actually played was GT4, and then kind of stopped playing video games for a while and was doing a few other things in real life. And then when COVID hit, my whole regular world got upended working from home, and just started watching some was actually watching Jimmy Broadbent back when he was in his shed, just doing iRacing streams, and thought, hey, you know what, that looks like a fun thing. So picked up a Logitech G29
Oh
in
yeah.
December of 2020, and haven't looked back. So it's just been slowly updating my setup as I go.
I don't can't tell you how many uh, people have started their addiction with the G29. No question about it. And then, um, and how did you come across Midwest Motorsports?
I'll be honest, being back from the TCR days, I don't exactly recall how I found Midwest Motorsports specifically, but kind of how I ended up looking for league racing was, kind of had a bit of a bad string of races in officials, and just kind of thinking, you know what, maybe there's something else. I still want to continue the service, but I don't want to be constantly wrecked out in every single official I join. And
Right.
I just came across Midwest Motorsports. I do know I looked at the rule book and kind of looked at the way things were set up, and just thought, you know what, this looks like a good place to start out. And now I'm here all this time later.
Yeah, that's great. Like I say, it's you got a lot of respect from the other competitors too. I see I see you giving space and I see you taking space when it's time. And it's just like I say, it's you're a great addition to the crew and to the crowd of drivers. And it's yeah, it's a lot of fun watching you. So I have a couple more questions while we're getting into it. Not about iRacing. First of all, um, as a fellow whiskey drinker, what's your whiskey of choice?
Oh, well, if I can spend the money, Blanton's. But I do
Yeah.
have a bottle of Woodford sitting up on my cabinet. We do a lot of camping, especially during the nice warmer months. So that a lot of just sitting around the fire and drinking whiskey and sharing stories.
A bottle of Woodford Reserves definitely makes friends and warms everybody up when you're
That
camping.
that
Yeah.
is true.
And Oscar and Dolly, how are they doing? Are they still sticking around, giving you a hard time? And do they get
Oh,
wound up and
always.
fired up?
Oh yeah, always. Actually, Dolly, she is currently laying in the bed that I've got set up here in my rig room slash office. But it's you know past their bedtime in a way, because they like to go to sleep early.
When you end up in the gravel trap or somebody takes you out, how do you react? Do you slam your headphones down, or do you bang on the wheel and walk away, or do you just stand up and walk off? How do you get over it when you have a bad
Uh,
night in the sim rig?
it's just a lot of just kind of stand up and walk away, and come back to it here in maybe 20-30 minutes, and just kind of hop into a test session and try and you know cool down a little bit. I try not to throw too many things. And I custom made my sim racing wheel, so definitely don't want to break that.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, that sounds like a question for another day, or maybe some shots to share, some pictures to share in the Road Series chat. Man, you got me
Oh
curious
yeah.
about making your own sim rig racing wheel. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
thanks again for
definitely
joining us.
share some. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, did Taylor, did you post any of your rig pictures in the rig pics channel?
No, I actually haven't yet. Part of the reason why is because the desk that my rig sits on is a little bit of a mess, so I want to clean that up before before I send those pictures. Yeah, I'm still trying to kind of get everything lined up, because I did upgrade. I went from a single 32-inch monitor to triple 32s not too long ago. So.
So what do you think about the triple 32s?
I absolutely love it. I wish I had done it sooner. So, Micro Center is a very bad place for me to go.
I get that, man. I walked into a micro center, I want to say it was almost a year ago, and the guy seen me eyeballing the rig they have set up.
Hmm.
He's like, "Take a seat, take a couple laps," and I'm like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, I have done that because we got one there up on the far north side of Indianapolis now, and that is actually how I ended up. I bought a set of Moza SRP pedals to replace the Logitech ones. I'm still running the Logitech wheelbase, but I'll get to a direct drive one of these days.
Yeah. Do you go to any like of the actual races out in Indy, like the Indy when NASCAR comes to Indy or whenever the GT series is coming this year? Do you go to any of those
Yeah,
races?
Yeah, I did go to the Battle on the Bricks last year. I've been to the Indy 500. I've been to the Brickyard 400 many years ago. And with I will say with the IMSA racing specifically in that
Yeah.
class, there's I actually know somebody who's has a family member who's actually a racer, Colin Braun, the racer he
Whoa.
was with Acura GTP last year. I think he's in an LMP2 this year. I haven't looked recently, but my wife and we went to college together, and I actually went to college with his twin brother, Travis. So
Oh, that's pretty sweet, man.
yeah, definitely interesting because as I've been kind of keeping up on some of the IMSA racing and with sim racing and stuff, we were watching it, and my wife just happens to look. She goes, "Hey, I know that person," and she's pointing to Colin Braun, and I'm like, "How do you know him?" And then she's like, "That's Travis's twin brother." I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm learning stuff about somebody I went to college with that I didn't know about."
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, man.
Yeah.
So since you're a road racer, and NASCAR was at a road race this weekend, Ant and I were talking earlier about track limits, and I don't know, did you watch any of the Xfinity race or Cup race or catch what the
No,
deal is at Coda?
no, unfortunately, I didn't watch any of that. I was actually, training for other races outside of sim racing because I'm actually training to do a couple of mountain bike races as well as a road biking event here later this year. As long as
Oh,
training goes well.
I'm a
What kind
cycling fan too. That's a lot of work.
what
Oh
kind of
yeah.
mountain bike you using?
I've got a couple different ones. I have a giant hardtail that I acquired many years ago that I started kind of doing some of the mountain bike races with, and
Mhm.
I acquired a Diamondback Mission Pro full suspension about 4 years ago that I've been itching to actually get out and race on. The when I bought it, then COVID happened, so it's like I haven't had an opportunity to actually race that one yet.
Yeah, those bikes are not cheap. It's crazy how expensive those things
Mm-mm.
get.
They can definitely rival some sim rigs that I've seen people have.
Hmm. Yeah, my father-in-law does. Well, he used to do the mountain bike racing, and now he
Mhm.
just mountain bikes for fun. But it's 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 hard work, man. I tried it once, and I
Mhm.
fell off a bridge. They had over a
Ooh.
like a ditch or something, dude. It was rough.
I I would be lying if I said I haven't done that probably more times than I care to even admit.
That's
But
a quick way to get yourself hurt, man. Well, be careful. You too, Ant.
Oh yeah.
Be careful, man. Um, my point about the track limits at Coda and the S's, I think turn 4 and 5 was the main corner they were calling track limits on, and it affected the end of the race. Second place got a 30-second penalty, dropped him down outside the top 20, Shane Van Giesbergen. So, my question to you, being at Indy, is well, and as well as being I guess, a Midwest Motorsports famous road racer. Um, how would what do you think the right call is on enforcing track limits? And is it sausage curbs? Is it gravel? Is it the AstroTurf? And because I remember at Indy in some of the NASCAR stuff, the turtles or the curbing that they temporary curbing they put in at the chicane on the Holman Straight actually came up and caused major damage there too. So, what do you do about enforcing track limits? and from a driver's perspective.
I would probably go with a combination of maybe some astroturf and some gravel because the sausage curbs you're asking for a lot of chaos because the further you get onto those, especially in a car that's sitting super low, you're just not going to have a very good time. And at some point, even though you've got all the safety equipment in those cars, at some point you got to look at it from a safety perspective. I don't want to see a bunch of guys get all wound up, and next thing you know, you got to grab the acetylene torch so you can cut two cars apart.
Yeah, great point. I agree with you. I think the natural way is the best way to enforce it. Put gravel on either side of the track, and if you run off the track, you're in the gravel. And if a bunch of gravel gets brushed back on the track, then so be it. If it gets too bad, I guess you have to throw a yellow. But
Yeah, throw
that's the way
yellow,
to.
get out there with the brooms.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I think we're gonna have to call it on the guest segment tonight, Taylor.
Okay.
We appreciate you coming on here and kind of giving us some insight on what you do outside of sim racing, and it's really interesting to learn all this stuff about you. It's actually kind of cool. Knowing you're out in Indy, if we're ever out at a race, we'll have to shoot you a message, have you come out and say hi or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, no
Look
problem,
forward
man.
to seeing you some more this season, Taylor. Let's keep it going with this GT4 stuff. It's really cool, and good luck to you. It's been fun watching. I can't wait to call you again.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that.
All right, guys. So that was Taylor Montague, and he runs in the Road Series. So feel free to watch him and just check out his races. I mean, he runs every Tuesday.
60 starts in the Midwest Motorsports Leagues.
Oh yeah, 60 starts. That is, he's been here a while. I was trying to find when we did the TCR, and it had to have been back before 2022. So he's been here. I want to say over 2 years.
I don't see a date. He chose the Audi. He started fourth and finished seventh. It doesn't say what track. It's
Well,
all good. Yeah,
I'll have to check with JT. I know he'll know when we ran TCR.
that's Taylor Montague. Cool dude.
Yeah, very cool dude. So, James, we're gonna shake it up a little bit here, and we're gonna go into the Road Series since we had a Road Series guest on, and kind of go over how their week went this week.
It was awesome. Imola. I'm not sure if you know much about Imola. It was a amazing race. I don't have a whole lot right in front of me at this moment, but I'm about to. I do remember I think the front four broke away. It was Josh Bloom and I know Jason Phillips was up there, and Michael Odell, David Wortman. Who else was up there? Brian Cox. Thank you, Brian. Michael Odell sat on the pole, and he pulled away out with Brian Coxon, but Jason Phillips and Josh Bloom, I say pulled away. The front like four pulled away from everybody relatively quickly. And then I don't know if it was the first lap or the second lap, Michael Odell ended up in the sand trap and dropped back pretty far outside the top 10, 15, and made his way back up before the race was over. But I thought for sure he was gone. He ended up finishing third. Um, Josh Bloom was chasing down Jason Phillips um, after an earlier spin for Josh Bloom. And on the second to last lap, coming, I think it may have even been coming to the flag, he got tied up with the lapper in one of the last chicanes. But Jason Phillips ended up the win. And Travis Rowe was second. And he's in the Porsche, and he was fighting all day, but he was 20 seconds behind the race winner, Jason Phillips. So at the end, Jason Phillips, Travis Rowe, Michael Odell third, and Josh Bloom ended up finishing fourth. I'm not sure what happened at the very last lap after Josh Bloom got tangled up with a lap car, but it looked like maybe he thought I meant to ask him this before tonight. Maybe he thought the checkered flag was right at the pit lane or didn't know where the checker flag was because it looked like he just pulled over. And Michael Odell went by him, ended up uh, snagging third place away, and they were less than half a second apart. So I think Josh Bloom either ran out of gas right at the finish or uh, lifted, thought the race was over and was ready to hit exit. And Michael Odell went by before Josh Bloom realized it and finally made it across. That was the excitement at the end of the race in the pro division. The amateurs, Ian Bakaitis won again after winning at Road Atlanta. Also won today, or this race, ended up 11th overall. And the next was our buddy Dustin Reinstedel in the FedEx number 11. Then Nick Calguru after that. So
That sounds like a pretty good turnout for Dustin.
yeah, for anybody, I think anybody would be happy with 16th overall and second in the AM class. Again, first amateur was 11th, so the top 10 cars, all pros. So it's good to see that we kind of got the pros and AM thing sorted out naturally. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. A couple of new guys that joined us, so it was a lot of fun. Shout out to David Stark. He had a good run going too. Ended up leading for a lap. I think it was in a pit rotation, but also Niles Kula got his fast lap for being the fast lap in the AM.
Good deal.
And that's a wrap from Autodrome Enzo and Dino Ferrari. Imola.
Yeah, Imola's a fun track. I think I ran it once or twice in the Road Series back when I ran in it. I can't remember if it was with F3 or GT3. It was one of the two.
Yeah, fun track. It's where a lot of history has taken place there for sure.
Yeah. So the Truck Series was off over the weekend.
Correct.
So they are heading off to, where are they heading off to this Friday? Dover. Be an interesting race.
Monster Mile.
Yeah, there's a bump in the middle of 3 and 4 that I know it unsettles the Cup car. I'm pretty sure it unsettled Gen 6 too. So I'm interested in seeing how the trucks handle it.
There's not many races left in the championship. 3 races left. Dover this weekend. It's yeah, I think there's a lot to play for. Let me look at the standings. I know we usually go over that. So even though we had an off week, Ty Williams has taken over from Michael Samia since Dustin Reinstedel missed the last race because he was at the Bristol, in real life Bristol. And so after having a 50-point lead, he now has dropped 100 points behind the leader, Ty Williams.
Yeah, it's Truck Series. I think we talked about last week. I think Ty can put away the Truck Series if he has another good race. Saying if he wins the next race, he should be able to clinch it. But that we run him for that reason. I mean,
Right.
Dustin's a strong competitor, especially in trucks. So should be a fun slate of races to watch.
Don't miss it. Friday night at 9:55 is the race start.
Yep.
Broadcast will go live about 9:50.
So the Xfinity Series was in Bristol over the weekend. Looks like Cody Anderson ended up winning that race. Not many cautions. Only 6 cautions. 2 of those would have been stage breaks. Looks like Cody kind of ran away with most of it. There's 3 leaders, 4 lead changes. It looks like, never mind. It looks like Cody and Dustin kind of split it there because Cody led 63 laps, Dustin led 61. Corbin had 26 laps led in there. Close finish. .256 between Dustin and Cody, so it had been coming down to the start finish line. They've been putting on some good races. The Xfinity Series. I went back after talking with Ty. Went back and rewatched that Watkins Glen race. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, watch the last lap of it in the Xfinity.
Awesome.
I give Brandon Thayer props for not nudging Ty, because he had his bumper right where he needed to kind of push him and take the win. But props to you, Brandon, for running the end of that race and trying to be as respectful as you could about it. So
I don't know a whole lot about Cody Anderson. I've seen him around. I know he's done quite a few races with us. I don't.
Yeah, he's friends with Dustin. But we'd have to pull Dustin on and yeah, exactly. We'd have to pull Dustin on and kind of get to know kind of how him and Cody met each other and such. But
Don't judge Cody for that.
Yeah, I know he runs more Xfinity than he does Cup, but when he does run, he's competitive. So we'll go on to the points for Xfinity. Looks like Dustin has a 120 point lead over Mike Scamilla, 141 point lead over Brandon Thayer, and 220 point lead over Corbin. Looks like Ty dropped a spot.
He's only 1 point back from Corbin, so
Yeah. And it looks like he dropped that spot because I think he was away over the weekend. I don't think he ran in the Xfinity race. So
right.
it was a good race. So we'll go ahead and move on to Cup. Just a reminder, all you Xfinity guys, the Xfinity Series is off this weekend in observance of Easter. So there's going to be trucks, no Xfinity, no Cup. So Cup Series was also at Bristol. I ended up coming out of that one with a win. How? I have no idea, because the adversity was crazy.
You weren't the only one there. Everybody had some sort of event. I mean, that's Bristol, baby.
Yeah, I think the only person that made it out of that unscathed would have had to have been Dustin.
He had a
But
couple of close calls too. And did you see, first of all, did you see Dustin's paint?
yeah, with the Durabond on it and such.
Yeah, had door marks, wheel marks on the doors. And man, that was cool. Shout out to Dustin for that.
Yeah. So I know we spoke about the race and kind of some of the things that happened throughout it.
Yeah, we always talk to the winner after the race. So congrats on your win. And yes, we did talk about it.
Yeah, there was one thing I forgot, and it was during the first stage. I was racing, and since I race in VR, there's tracking, and there has to be light in the room for the VR to track. And I didn't realize it, but I had my blackout curtain shut, and the sun started going down, and my VR started freaking out. So I'm going through these corners, and it's trying to reset my view.
Oh,
So
man.
like I'll be in the ceiling of the car, and then I'd be down in the seat looking at the steering wheel, and then and I remember telling JT, because I think he was right behind me, and I was like going through a corner, like kind of squirrely, and he was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "My headset's freaking out right now. Like it keeps like changing my view." So he ended up passing me. I think after stage one, I pit and I was able to turn the lights on, because my headset actually shut off at one point, and I had to like flip it up, drive, and then flip it back down. It was a nightmare. Like Bristol was a nightmare, and how I came out of that with a win is beyond me. But everybody raced hard, and it was fun. It was a fun race.
Oh, it was great fun, man. It was a lot of fun to call. Like I say, I think I do think that Dustin and Cody were the class of the field. They took off, and no, that's of course no disrespect to anybody else in there, but especially on they seem to have the tires figured out, where they were able to jump out to a couple of second lead and then go to a consistent pace, and nobody would catch them, and they just kind of did that lead follow thing, and with no pressure from the back, and they could just run the best scenario for their tires. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
I think that really helped them out to work together.
yeah. I think the only time you were going to catch, well, I think the only time you were going to catch Cody would have been on a long green, because Dustin, I think, said that he was starting to reel him in after like 50 laps. Right whenever the stage was getting ready to end, and I think he said he was kind of abusing his tires a little more than everybody else. But that was kind of the strategy, because you started the race and you didn't want to go 100%. You wanted to go anywhere from like 70% to 80% for the first like 15 laps, because tire fall off. Like if you abused your tires early, you were going backwards way faster than you were going forwards. Which was actually interesting. It was kind of like the actual Bristol race in a way,
Yeah,
but the tire fall off since the oval update has surprised me more than anything with this car, because running this season ago or 2 seasons ago, zero fall off. Like you could probably run the whole race on 2 sets of tires, but now you actually have to take care of your tires. So it's introducing the driver element to it. And the other crazy thing, James, is the lane choice. So
yeah.
I was practicing and I was running some high line laps, and after about 4 or 5 times up in the high line, decided to run at the bottom, and I was getting faster lap times at the bottom, and then the bottom would start to lose time, so you move back up to the top and you start to get faster time. So it seems like you can't just run the top consistently anymore and expect it to be the fastest line the entire race. They want you to move around now. So
I'm
it's
I'm really
interesting.
curious about that. That's a great observation, and it makes me think of more questions than really comments. Like, is could it be a temperature thing where running the bottom gets them hot and they get outside their comfortable temperature zone, so you go back up and cool them back off, and then they cool off too much, you have to go back, heat them up. I don't know. Is then my other question, and what do I know, man? I'm just watching from the outside. Um, the other thing is it you mentioned the tire model update. Is that just in the Cup car? Have you seen that in any other cars, or do you know?
Well, I haven't got to test out the Xfinity car. I used to run Xfinity a lot, but they had tire fall off in Xfinity. Um, so I don't think there was much they really needed to change with that. Cup, it used to be with this car that you could run almost entire races and really not have to change tires. And I think they just dialed in the tire model with this car specifically to make it to where there's actually tire wear. I mean, on the road courses, you're still gonna come across like Watkins Glen. I could have ran the entire Glen race without changing tires, and that's something they can probably work on. But with the oval side now, like the non-road course stuff, they dialed in the tire model. You do have to take care of your tires. So any of you oval guys that are running Cup, anybody um that's messing with the next gen car, start practicing taking care of your tires. I know there were guys in the race that took off like rockets, and you just gotta tell yourself. I mean, we were saying it a lot in the admin chat. We'll see you in about 10 laps, and
Right.
that's exactly how it worked out. I mean, you just fly by them in about 10 laps. So it's fun. It's a good thing to have, because now people have to pace themselves. And if they want to go to the front and run all the laps as fast as they can, great. We'll catch you, and you'll probably be a lap down by the time you get to change your tires.
It makes it really dangerous during the pit cycles, or with all that tire fall off when you pit and a yellow comes out at just the right or just the wrong time,
Yeah,
depending on your cycle.
that is one thing I appreciated about our Sunday Cup race was the fact we were able to execute green flag pit stops, because I feel like that kind of turns the race on its head, because you have the leader who's going to stay out and run those extra 3, 4, 5 laps and see if a caution comes out. And then you got the guys who dip in early and are able to take advantage of those tires to like run wide open around the track and try to make up time on the leader. So, but then that can also burn you, because if you burn your tires trying to catch up and the leader comes out, you're getting past. So it's green flag pit stops are exciting. I was just happy that they were occurring in that race.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And maybe that's a poll question. You never know.
Yeah, heck yeah. So we'll move on to the cup points here. Following the Bristol race, it looks like Dustin still has the lead. Justin Thaler about 107 points behind. Myself 131 points behind. Ty Williams 138, and Huffman hanging in there at 159 points behind. Again, reminder: Cup Series is off this Sunday. We are, of course, Easter, so we'll be back the following week. I believe we're in Pocono. It ought to be interesting. I think this is probably the first time we're taking the next gen car to Pocono. So hopefully we get a decent turnout. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of lap logging, because Pocono is a big track and you get spaced out quick.
Big front straightaway with lots of opportunity into turn one. Actually,
Yep.
all the turns, but
Yeah, even the tunnel turn and turn 3 and 4. I know well, is
what
it
turn
turn 3?
four?
Yeah,
There
turn
is no turn
3.
four.
I guess turn 3 is back in the Gen 6 car. It used to be a really good place to set up a pass, because you could roll that corner kind of like the middle or high lane, carry speed, and just down the straight stretch get around them. So we'll see how it handles in the next gen car, and if it's still the same kind of situation or not.
Yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait. 80 laps. Going to be a fun one Sunday.
Oh yeah, yes it will. So going back to our earlier discussion, now we've wrapped up our coverage of the uh, Oval Series and Road Series. You wanted to touch up on the Xfinity Series race?
Oh yeah, sure. I kind of spoiled my thunder there asking Taylor the question about the sausage curbs, but also sausage curbs are track limits, but also the Rubbins racing and Austin Hill and Shane Van Gisbergen getting into it. And I don't think I don't I don't know. I know Kyle Larson had a little like 10 laps fresher tires or 12 laps fresher tires, whatever it was. Um, but I don't think that Kyle Larson would have even caught him if Austin Hill and Shane Van Gisbergen weren't doing whatever they were doing. It started in turn one when Austin Hill pushed him wide, and then they only had 2 laps to get it done. Austin Hill thought it was an oval and thought Shane wasn't going to be able to catch back up to him. I don't know. Which one
Yeah.
of those do you want to talk about? Because
Oh,
I'm happy to cut it as short or as long as you want, but
well, I
um,
mean the battle between SVG and Austin Hill. I mean, Austin Hill's a big boy. He's a big boy, big country boy.
yeah,
I
he's,
kind of feel like he can just go in there and bully some of those other drivers, just because. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna walk up to him, and it's gonna be like walking up to like a gigantic farm boy. That's really it.
yeah, he's corn fed.
Yeah, I mean, it, I think I've seen him fight one other racer, and it didn't turn out for them. It turned out well for the other racer. So I don't think a lot of guys really want to push subject with him. But those Australians, or wherever SVG is from, it's not Australia.
New
It's where?
Zealand.
Yeah, he's a big boy, and I was kind of hoping to see if those two were going to throw fists at the end of the race.
I think Shane's too emotionally intelligent to let it resort to that. I'm glad Shane paid him back that very same race. It was when it mattered. You know, Shane knew, in my opinion, Shane knew exactly where he was going to use Austin Hill up. And he did. I don't know if you saw SVG's front end and hood at the end, but
Oh
um,
yeah,
SVG gave it to him. He let him know that you're not going to bully me around, which I think would not have happened uh, in Australia or in LCV8 supercars as much as they would have maybe don't not forget, but that I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be as much bump and run kind of aggression. He owes you one kind of thing
yeah. I
as there
hear.
is in NASCAR.
Yeah, I hear the V8 supercars actually frown upon the whole bumping and running anymore. Like,
Yeah,
I guess it used to be like pretty rowdy, but anymore they just frown upon it.
yeah. It doesn't take skill to run over somebody. It
That's
takes a lot
true.
more skill to pass them. So I think that. But I'm glad that Shane knows that they were in NASCAR, and that's how you stand up for yourself is by getting them back and not taking no crap, so to speak. And you handle it on the track that day, and then you can squash it and move on. But they're gentlemen, grown ups. I don't think they're going to resort to fighting. But I agree with you. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with them. But I'm glad he gave it back to him and made his presence known in the league.
So,
So
speaking of, I guess, paying back and giving back what you received there. Did you
yeah.
see the post race altercation between Kyle Busch? Well, conversation between Kyle Busch and Chris Bell.
I saw the message, but I did not click it and watch the video.
So the cameras don't really pick up much, but you can kind of hear Kyle Busch asking him like, "How many times have I wrecked you?" And Chris or Bell
Chris.
says, "Never." And then Kyle says, "Well, you got one coming."
Oh my gosh, what a crybaby!
Oh
Yeah,
man, he was not happy.
did Chris Bell really punt him that hard?
So
I didn't see that part.
I guess they were going into turn one, and it looked like Kyle Busch was trying to set up a crossover according to what Bell was seeing, but he didn't see it in time, and he ended up running right into the left rear quarter panel of Busch and sent him in turn one. But I don't know. I mean, Bell, he always has a fast car, but it seems more often than not, he's usually he's involved in some sort of contact with somebody. Because it wasn't just Kyle Busch he hit; he ended up spinning Larson out. He admitted it was an accident, but I mean, at some point, you're going to run over so many people so many times that you're going to get something back. And I think Kyle's just kind of at the
Mm.
point now where he's like, you got to get something.
Yeah, it's funny how nothing's ever Kyle Busch's fault.
Yeah,
Too.
that's true.
I think it was just a. It sounds like he left rhythm. It's not like he didn't clear him or he tried to clear himself. It was just I don't know. Unless it was all the way up to his door, I don't think Bush should have known he was there. Obviously, he was trying to prevent a crossover, but I didn't see it, so I can't really
Yeah.
comment on it. But yeah, I'm glad they didn't swing, but we'll see if it pays him back. How deep into the race was it? Could Kyle not catch back up to Bell and pay him back in that same race?
No, it was after he spun him. I think he was constantly like 5 to 10 seconds behind him. I think it was probably about halfway, maybe a little over halfway through the race.
Yeah,
But
if you can't catch back up in
yeah,
20 half the race, then you weren't
yeah,
anyway. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. One last one for you. I know earlier I asked you the question about Coda, like should it be on the NASCAR track schedule in the future and such.
Yeah, I meant to ask you what you thought.
Well, as we were talking about it, I started thinking like, is there another track that you would replace Coda with?
Great question.
Why did they leave Road America? I feel like Road America
Yeah.
would be the equivalent for Coda in my opinion. But I don't feel like Road America is as big nor as technical, but I felt like it was good racing.
Great racing. Xfinity still goes there, right?
I think they pulled Xfinity out of there.
They pull all of it.
I
That's
believe they pulled
unfortunate.
everything out, which is terrible because it's a great track.
It's an amazing track, world famous track, and it pulls a lot of fans from Canada too. The Canadian fans don't have a lot of places to go to if they want to see NASCAR racing. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Maybe it was the weather. I'm sure it's contracts with track owners and NASCAR sponsorship deals. Of course, you got to follow the money. Um,
Yeah, that's true. And Coda does bring in a crowd. I don't know if I had to choose between the two, I'd definitely like to go to Road America over Coda. Just there's something about that track. It just seems like a funner track to me, in my opinion. But that's about as far as an opinion's going to get you.
right. Did we ever talk about Bowman Gray? Speaking of going to different tracks, so maybe they replace Coda with Bowman Gray.
I haven't got to actually read up on what all was involved with that. All I
NASCAR
seen
just
was NASCAR bought the rights.
bought the track.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see. I didn't actually get to read up on any of it, so I don't know much about it. But hopefully they take some of that uh l- outlaw mentality out of there that's been happening over the last year.
Out of Bowman Gray. That's what draws the crowd. That's why people go back. But I agree with you, Ed, that most of the fans go to Bowman Gray to flip somebody off.
Exactly.
So
All right. Well, I feel like we've put in a pretty good podcast here. Next week's is probably going to be way shorter since we're going to be covering the Road and Truck series. Aside from that, be on the lookout, guys. Oval stuff's going to have some uh, voting coming out. I want to say here in the next 2 weeks. Definitely before we wrap up the season or the last week of the season, we're going to release some polls for the next season just to kind of get our league set up to move on to the next season. So keep your eyes open, and any of you guys participating in the races this weekend, have fun. And
sweet.
we'll catch you all next week.
Thanks, Ant. Had a great time.
Thanks, James.
All right, stay in your lane.